Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education University, and I'm your host, Tim Bogantz. We've been talking a lot about the Art of Ed community here, and just over the past few months here, and it's been an amazing experience to be part of that Art of Ed community. It's one of my favorite places to hang out on the internet. And today's conversation, which will be with Janet Taylor, will be about a great few posts and discussions that have been taking place in the community. I want to continue that conversation. A couple of weeks back, Janet had a series of posts about the challenges that we are all facing and what we are struggling with, or specifically what makes us feel like we're riding the hashtag struggle bus. And teachers in the community were sharing so many of their own issues, whether it be with organization or assessment or art history or teaching Gen Alpha. But along with sharing our struggles, people were also sharing the ways they solve those problems, and they're offering help and suggestions and some great stories. So this episode is going to be all about finding solutions and sharing practical advice, not just from us, but from the art teacher community. Art teachers across the country, we're hearing from them and hoping that what they share can help you feel a little more confident and a little less alone. So we'll highlight some of those conversations because we are all dealing with a lot of similar issues. There are those times when we are riding the struggle bus. So whether you're looking for some ways to solve your problems or you just want to commiserate a little bit, this is a discussion that might be worthwhile for you. Let me bring on Janet now. Janet Taylor is joining me now. Janet, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Tim. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing well, actually. So
good.
things are good. I'm literally about to leave on an airplane to go interview Carrie Mae Weems for our Now conference for the keynote presenter. So I could not be more excited about that. So in general, life is good. We're going to record this podcast.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm driving straight to the airport. So I'm looking forward to it. So,
it's a great day for you.
Yeah, and it really is. I'm looking forward to it very much. I need to ask you though. We are having the podcast here related to riding the struggle bus, and it is early December. You are teaching high school. Are you on the struggle bus right now?
I feel like I'm always on the struggle bus.
Okay, fair.
Okay, not really. That's not fair to say. That's not fair. Okay. Yeah, you said it's December, so here's the thing. I don't know how that happened, but it did. It is actually December. And Thanksgiving was late,
Yeah.
So that break was late. And then all of a sudden it was literally December when we came back. And then the way winter break lines up, it's I literally said to my kids yesterday, I was like, hey guys, we have a week and a half of solid work time left, and we still haven't even done an entire unit, and we have the art show next week. So yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great.
Good. No, it is kind of wild to come back from Thanksgiving and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, finals week is 2 weeks away.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's nuts. But
yeah, and there's so much cleaning of the studio and prepping, you know what I mean, to kind of close out this semester too.
Yes.
Oy. We'll get there.
It's a lot, but yes, we always do. We always do. So, okay. So I talked in the intro about how much I loved reading just all of the conversations that came along with struggle bus week on the community. And so I wanted to go through all of those with you. And I figured that you and I could talk a little bit about each of the topics and kind of what we struggle with. And then I'd love to share some community ideas too. So if I can just start with the art history one, as that may have been the first one posted. It was the one I was most excited about because, I always love
Of
talking
course
about
you
art
were.
history.
Uh-huh.
So let me ask you, Janet, to start. Like, what do you struggle with when it comes to teaching art history?
Like everything. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I love art history. I have always been like super fascinated by it. I
Yeah.
love how it's like, when we were in college and like, funny enough, Tim, you remember when we were in college
Yeah.
together and took classes probably in the same, and we had Tim and I didn't even know each other at that time, but
I
we
know
went to
this.
school at the same time.
We
It's
should tell
crazy.
everybody this. We were both at the
Oh
University
yeah.
of Iowa at the same time.
Hmm.
Never knew each
Studying
other.
art.
But then, what, 20 years later, we start working together at the Art of Education and find out
Here
that,
we
yeah,
are.
we actually went to school together. Still can't place each other in any
Yeah.
classes, but
No.
we were theoretically there at the same time, taking the same classes.
And had same professors. Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah.
But do you remember that like intro class that was like what was it? Western art history, right? Of the
Yeah.
Western world or whatever that was.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that like survey course where you had to like memorize. They just like, here's a
Just
slide, here's a slide, here's a slide.
hundreds of
Yes.
slides that you had
Yeah.
to memorize. Yeah.
Okay, that is my experience. And that I feel like was my experience in history growing up. Like everything was just about names and dates and like tying all those things together. Now I'm like, as an
Mhm.
adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I still somehow my brain cannot retain that information. It's like a sieve. It's a sieve. So I struggle with it. I'm always on the struggle bus. But can I tell you my current issue actually with
Yes,
it?
yes, please do.
Okay. So my current issue that is ongoing for me is that I teach mostly jewelry metals, metalsmithing,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very difficult to find contemporary artists or metalsmiths, right? Who
Yeah.
who do conceptual work,
Mm-hmm.
because when you search in Google
Oh,
or Pinterest or
is it
whatever, right?
all Etsy? Like, is it just like
It's
people's
like
Etsy
Etsy.
shops come up? Yeah.
It's Etsy, or it's like mass produced, like
Right.
horrible enamel pins, like
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
it is not. So it's very, very difficult for me to connect contemporary artists into my metalsmithing classes. So that's a real struggle bus for me right now.
Yeah, for sure. I have not even thought about that, but yeah, that seems like just the biggest pain. Yeah, I need some
Yeah.
alternative avenues. I would say that art history was never really been a struggle for me just because I love it so much, and that's how my
Rub it
brain
in.
works. I can remember those. Like, my brain does a pretty good job of retaining that information. But I would say my struggle is kind of related to what you talked about, is how to teach it and how to make it exciting. Like, yes, I get excited about it, but how do you present it to kids in a way that's exciting so they're not feeling like they have to memorize slides and memorize dates? And you just need to put some thought into, like, how are kids going to connect with this? How would you relate it to what you're doing in class? But I think if you put some thought into that, it comes pretty naturally to most of us. So I don't think that's too big of a struggle. But and then there are always, when you get excited about art, there are always new artists that you want to find, that you want to share with your students. But then you get into the struggle of, who do I take out? If I'm going to put this artist into the rotation of who I teach about, who has to leave? So we're not just overwhelming them with a giant list. So those can be tough decisions sometimes. But generally, I just get excited about new artists, and then just out of nowhere, we're like, hey, everybody, have you seen this artist? And just show them out of nowhere. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
So whatever works. But a few really good comments from the community I wanted to share and see if anything kind of resonated with you or gave you any thoughts. So Dylan Trumbull said their struggle was which artists to spotlight. Michelle LaRoque said choosing from the unlimited list. So I feel that for sure. Ashley Hinton, along the same line, said the overwhelming amount of options. And then Jessica Stuver said, I don't know if it's a struggle as much as a constant concern, but I always want to make sure I'm teaching art history that shares a lot of diversity. And I applaud her for thinking about that. I think a lot of us kind of take that perspective as well, just making sure that we show a diverse set of artists. I remember one of the first podcasts we ever did was called No More Dead White Guys, and just talking about, getting away from those, quote unquote canons of art history, because it's such a broad spectrum of artists that are out there, and there are so many more that you can share. So anyway, Janet, thoughts on any of those comments from the community?
Yeah, totally. And again, as somebody who struggles with retaining all that information, I often will toss out like multiple artists per unit that kind of connect with my, with what media or the technique or whatever it is. And really just like let the students kind of analyze, compare, contrast, etc. But then like pull what they want to connect with from that artist. And I think that helps me so that I don't feel like I have to necessarily focus on an artist. I don't want my kids copying an artist, right? But also like I'm exposing them without feeling like I'm limiting, or constraining that amount as well. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's one way that has helped me. And I'll tell you another person that has kind of on your like I was going to say on your struggle bus, but not your struggle bus, your like rocket ship or whatever to art history is like Kyle Wood, right? Like, yeah, exactly. And he talked in the community a little bit about his arts madness. And I always love that, how he approaches that. Yeah.
Very cool way to introduce a lot of artists. But I love that idea of showing a lot of different people and just, let the students drive that, let them figure out what they're interested or what resonates with them. And so giving them those options. All right. Any other thoughts? Or are you ready to move on to topic number 2?
Well, can I give a quick little teaser about one of our presenters for the Now Conference?
Please do.
Okay. So we have Ruth Byrne coming back for the Now Conference, and I'm super excited. She's just a brilliant teacher and a lovely person, but she's actually going to provide us a way to help students connect with and analyze artwork that so if that's like something that you struggle with the conversations around the artist or around the artwork, she really makes it really accessible for young all the way up through high school. I could see it definitely using it in mine too. So
yeah, she gives a great framework that you can work from, and I think it will be a very helpful presentation. So I'm excited for everybody to see that one. So, okay, moving on to conversation or topic number 2 on Struggle Bus, and I think this is the one where you excel, Janet. What do you struggle with when it comes to assessment?
Nothing. Obviously, no. I'm just kidding.
No, you are the go-to expert for this podcast when it comes to assessment. So I feel odd asking you that, but no. What do you struggle with when it comes to assessment?
No. I mean, it's always everything we do is always a challenge, right? It's nothing is easy, but, I would say like time is always a concern for everybody. It's a concern for me when everybody's like, it takes me so long. How do you do it? And I was like, yeah, me too. It just is. Things take a while to deal with, but, so time to grade, timely feedback, to get that stuff back to students. Like I still have some grades I'm still working on, all of that. So, I don't know. Again, like maybe, I don't know if this is really an assessment issue or more of just a general lack of time in the day issue, because I feel like everything is like treading water. But like I said, I'm on the struggle bus. That's how we started this podcast. So might as well continue on that.
No, for sure. It's tough. And there's pressure because we hear all the time about how important it is to give timely feedback. But, on the same level with that, like when do I have time to give that timely feedback?
Exactly.
Finding the hours in the day is really tough. And I would say that's my biggest struggle too, is just staying on top of everything. When I taught elementary art, I luckily didn't have to do much. I just had an overwhelming number of kiddos and, people understood. And so we just have like end of quarter grades, and that's all we had to do. And that was not bad. But when you're in secondary and you're still seeing, hundreds of kids and all of these projects, finding the time is always an issue. And I think a lot of people talked about that in the discussion we had. And, one thing that I really love doing with my advanced classes is just sitting down for one-on-one conferences with kids in the middle of projects, at the end of projects. And just being able to do an assessment via conversation, just face to face, talking about what's going well, what's not, just whatever the rubric may be, and those are incredibly helpful. But you need to have decent classes that allow you to do that. You need to have small enough classes so that you have the time to do that. And so I realize that's not going to work for everyone. But I would just say anytime you can make some time during class to give some feedback or give some assessment, that can be incredibly helpful. And I would say when we're looking at this conversation from the perspective of the community, I think the theme that we saw along with time was the difficulty of dealing with rubrics, especially if you have hundreds of students. So Matt Weidman, Frank Montas, they mentioned specifically having time to grade or finding time to grade. And I want to highlight a really good comment from Frank. He said, "One thing I learned after almost 10 years was that if I catch myself writing the same thing as part of my feedback, it should be part of my rubric. I rarely write anything anymore, but I highlight and underline a lot. It's a sign of a well-written rubric. If you can just circle where you are in there, that's good." And then Frank said, "Finally, I will say that my mid-process check-ins are more beneficial to students than final assessments," which I think is a great point. So a lot to digest there, but anything that you want to comment on?
Just that's like a mic drop moment that he said all that, right? But another thing that I have learned too is that if I can't give timely feedback back to my students, like if I'm doing exit slips or bell ringers or any of that, and I am not getting the information back to them, or it's not informing my instruction, right? Because I can't read it fast enough or whatever, then I don't do it. Like, why? What is the purpose of that, right? That's not fulfilling the purpose that it's meant to do. So stop putting more work on yourself and focus more on the, you said conferences, but I feel like, we are doing individualized feedback and talking to students all the time.
Yeah, it's constant.
Yes. And so that is the feedback loop. That's assessment, right? Like right there. And so I think just shifting the focus off of the paperwork end of things and more on the interaction feedback, I think is a big way to save time and focus that, like Frank said, your rubric, right? Like if you can underline circle, like if you put that work up in the front that your rubric is solid, right? That takes a little bit of time. But in the end, you're not sitting there writing a ton or having to give all that feedback to the students,
Yeah, no, I appreciate the idea of the mindset shift that you just mentioned where, we need to think about it less as the paperwork and more of this thing that we are consistently doing with our students. And another thing, I feel like we're off to a whole different podcast here that we could be talking about with all of these topics. But one thing that I've learned from you, Janet, when it comes to assessment is just the importance of those in-process, midpoint critiques, midpoint feedback, not only for students, like Frank said, but for us as teachers to modify or to supplement what we are teaching. And, they are super important, and they, like I said, not only beneficial for students, but for us as teachers as well, because they can inform our instruction in so many different ways. And so I think, if we worry less about what we're doing at the end and a little bit more about the consistent interactions, consistent feedback that we are giving and getting, that can really transform like how we think about assessment. I think that can be really helpful. So like you said, a lot of really, really good points there, and we could talk a lot more about that, but I'm going to go ahead and move us on. Our next topic for the week was organization. So, what do you struggle with the most when it comes to physical organization? I will give you a second to think about that because I struggle with all of it. But I want to give a genuine shout out, Michelle Parvin and Robin Murphy from the community. They're like the extreme type A people. They have that all figured out. Michelle had a day in the life video with AOEU that shows off her classroom organization. Probably worth watching if you need some inspiration, you need some ideas. We'll link to that. But yeah, I always admire those people who have all of the organization things figured out because that has been a lifelong struggle for me. So what about you, Jen? Where are you when it comes to organization?
Okay, this is where I am constantly on the struggle bus, truly. Yeah. So like I'm a piler. I pile things. I
Yeah.
have sticky notes. I pile the sticky notes. It's really, really bad. But I have to say, like, so I walked into my classroom last year, brand new classroom, beautiful. It just was amazing. And you get in there and you realize not, even though it looks perfect, not everything always works for
Yeah, it's
you
not
and your
always
students, right?
functional for what you need
Yeah,
in an art room. Yes.
right. So I do really actually enjoy coming up with systems and like figuring out
Okay.
what's going to work best for them, seeing what works, what doesn't. I also really love giving, getting feedback from my students about what is working and what is not. So like
Yeah.
I changed up this whole way I did tool delivery, set up whatever in my classroom, and something didn't seem quite right. And then my students were like, oh, yeah, I didn't like it this way. I liked it that way. And I'm like, okay, then let's figure out something in between that's going to work for both of us or whatever it is. So I get it. It's really, really hard and it's a constant battle. And there's always so much mess and there's always so many pieces of artwork laying all over the
Yes.
place. And oh my gosh, like I said, this is the time of my art show coming up next week. And it's like, I just walk in my classroom and it's just piles and piles and piles of stuff everywhere. So I'm
Yes.
also like, I don't know, Tim, I'm a little bit of a hoarder when it comes to
Okay.
materials and things.
Uh,
So,
I would say at the beginning of my career, I was a hoarder. Just like,
mhm,
you never know when these toilet paper rolls are going to come in handy. Better keep all of them, like, oh, this might be a
yeah,
great project someday. But then as I got further into my career, like, hey, I've been here a decade and like, haven't
still
used
haven't
these
used
yet.
them. Yeah.
Probably don't need to keep them around anymore. So that
Yeah.
helped once I realized that I could get rid of things. And I've talked about this ad nauseum on the podcast, but just labeling everything, pictures on everything,
Yes.
helping kids be self-sufficient when it comes to getting materials out, putting them away is probably the biggest game changer for me with organization. I would say, just judging by community responses, storage space was a huge one. Jessica Stuver, Jennifer Jasper, Ruth Byrne, they all mentioned finding storage space for 3D projects. Heather Hacker and Amber Maddock both mentioned supplies, especially when you're out of space or if you have multiple classes working with different materials. And,
That's a biggie.
it's tough though because you can't really give any blanket advice for that because everyone's room is different. And
Yes.
I was lucky enough to have cabinets with space on top of them and I could just store everything on top of the cabinets. And I'm tall, I can reach it, whatever. It's not a problem. But then I realized, oh, that doesn't work for everyone. Everyone has these different spaces and it is really, really difficult to kind of figure out how everyone can do that. So I would just say if you're listening to this and you have any great hacks on storing 3D projects or other in progress works that you want to share, please head on over to the community and toss that into the chat. We would really appreciate hearing all of those. So Janet, any more thoughts on organization before we move on to our last topic?
No, because like I said, I'm on that struggle bus every day.
Can't give you advice because I'm
Just, I
busy
guess,
unpiling my
I,
sticky notes right now.
seriously, as I'm like jotting them down. No, I just, doesn't it feels kind of nice that we're not alone though, doesn't it? Like,
Yes.
that's the thing about the struggle bus. Like, it's not all the time, but also we're not the only ones.
Yes,
It's an ongoing
absolutely.
issue. Yeah.
Well, and I said
Yeah.
that at the beginning of the episode. Like, maybe you're looking for advice in this episode. Maybe you just want to commiserate and be like, oh, yeah, This is tough
Right.
for me too, so I can appreciate that. Okay, our final topic of the week was Gen Alpha, and that is a fun one. So, Dan, I would love you to think about what you struggle with when it comes to teaching Gen Alpha. The first thing, which I think was probably my favorite comment from the community, was from Jessica Stuver again, who said, probably their continued obliteration of the English language.
Okay, so can I tell you, I was driving with my daughter the other day and her friend, and I said something like, "What's up with the skibbity toilet thing?" And they just started cracking up, and I was like, "I still don't know what this." Where this came from, what it means,
Okay.
and they couldn't answer either.
No, okay. This is my problem with Gen Alpha slang. I could rant about this, but I'm just gonna leave it quick. I appreciate Gen Z slang because it makes sense and they can explain it quickly. Gen Alpha is the most nonsense stuff that you've
like
ever
surrealism.
heard. And then it is
Dada.
the surrealism of slang. And then you ask them, like, where did that even come from? And they have no idea. And so,
and they don't know what it means either, right? It's like they don't know where it came from, or
no, but it's fun to say. So go with it.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully, I pronounced that correct.
I believe skibbity toilet was
Skibbity.
Correct. So, but beyond the slang, what else are you struggling with when it comes to Gen Alpha?
Okay, this is a biggie for me. So these kids are quote unquote digital natives. Like that's all they do is digital. Like,
yeah,
it's an attachment, right? And an additional appendage is their device, but they don't know how to type on a keyboard or change the size of an image without it being distorted on a slide. It just like blows my mind that they cannot do these very simple, basic computer tasks.
Yes. Okay. So, oh my goodness, the typing. It's crazy to me. These kids are on devices all the time, and when it comes to typing, they have to hunt and peck with their two fingers, and it's fascinating to watch. And I don't know, like my default thought on that is like, oh my God, how do they not know? But then at the same time, I realize that we as adults just assume they know because they are digital natives. And I think everyone in their life has just assumed, oh, they know how to do that. They're on devices all the time, but nobody's ever taught them, and so I think it is kind of a weird disconnect between, they're on there all the time. So we assume they know how to do everything, but yet because we assume they have not been taught. And so it's a weird kind of setup. Again, I feel like that's another discussion that we could have that could take a while. And I would say, one comment that I saw in the community that kind of resonated with me. I don't teach Gen Alpha, but with volunteering and coaching, the thing that I always see is the constant touching of each other. They always have to have their hands on each other. And
my gosh.
I do not get it. And so we're always having conversations about like, hey, without permission, you cannot touch people. And like, you have to give people space. And you just talk about that constantly, and it's difficult. So
it's a real I teach high school, and it is a real problem. So I was thinking about this the other day because of course I was like, stop touching, put your like hands to self. I'm like, gosh, what is the problem with this? Is like seniors, but okay. So this is my little soapbox theory, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
I wonder if it's like a pendulum swing from having social distance during COVID, where they like do not know how to socialize at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they're like socializing, but they still like, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, is this like some weird developmental milestone that they missed out on? And so now it's got to like, it's got to like show up before they become adults. So we might have this for a little longer.
Just,
I don't know.
There are a lot of teaching moments there, and we probably need to take advantage of those teaching moments. So
Oh
that's a good
gosh.
point. I do
Yeah.
want to highlight, though, beyond the nonsense that we're talking about, there are actually some really serious points, some really good conversation in the community about that. And I would say just the ones that really stood out to me, or the themes that stood out to me consistently, just the ideas of Gen Alpha's apathy, their work avoidance, a lot of middle school and high school teachers commenting that students never read directions anymore. And they're like almost helpless if you're not holding their hand every step of the way. And that seemed to be a huge source of frustration for a lot of teachers. So
Mhm.
Robin Murphy talked about how her resources that used to work so well, all these things that she spent all the time putting together as teaching resources, basically don't work at all anymore. And Todd
Mhm.
Lieben, he put this very succinctly when he said, students are spending more energy avoiding the work than it would take to actually complete the work.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah. And I was
Yes.
like, no, that was a very, very good point and very well said. Don Kruger said that, Gen Alpha is struggling with self-regulation in general, volume control in particular. Lee
Mhm.
Gorton also said volume and impulse. But then she also said, I got to say, I'm a huge fan of their weirding of the language, and I'm in love with the brain rot, and I'm here for it. So I appreciate that. I
Full
need to get
circle.
more to that mindset and kind of be entertained by the language rather than annoyed by it. So I appreciate that perspective. And then and Deidre Forgione said, my freshman boys cannot keep their hands off each other. It gets a bit inappropriate at times. Like we said with these teaching moments, she said, lots of reminders about personal space and consent. So again, and it's annoying to have to remind them constantly about that, but it is something that we need to do. So, any of those things that you want to chat about a little bit more, Janet?
I mean, I think the not following directions, the apathy, the work avoidance, I feel like yes, those things still kind of wrap in together, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I felt like things were finally getting better, but there's still like I don't know, what do you want to say? Snags, groups, like there's
Yeah.
always like a few that is like still really stuck in that kind of place, and it's just a really disheartening part of this of teaching them right now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like the other stuff, it's like it's annoying, it's ridiculous. I can laugh about it and like
Right. Right.
roll my eyes, um, or like pull my hair out a little bit. But sometimes I think that just the apathy or that lack of motivation is just the hardest to really manage because it's like, what? I'm like doing a tap dance and you're still not entertained. Like, what
Yeah.
else can I do to get you to do the work?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like these kids are just not, and I'm not, this is a generalization. This is not a, you know, this group of kids that I'm saying that are struggling with this specifically, right? Are like not motivated by grades or not motivated by credits or, like
Yeah.
graduating.
Not to
Like,
be too flippant, but not motivated by anything. Like,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it used to be, okay, I can do these fun things. Let's do, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I feel like I am working really hard for you to pass my class, and I'm not sure why I'm working so hard for you to not work at all,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and
So,
I think that's the difficulty we all face because, it's fun to laugh at slang and worry, about kids touching each other too much, but those are really on the periphery of what we do. But then when it comes down
mhm,
to why we're really there, like doing the learning, doing the work, putting in the effort, and no matter what we do, like you're not making a lot of headway there, like that can get frustrating. That can be a
yeah.
struggle that's really difficult. And again, we don't have the answers because this is new to so many of us. And, the things that we've learned, the things we've done before are not necessarily working. And so that's why I appreciate being able to have these conversations, being able to share these ideas and just seeing, like, we obviously don't have the solutions, but if we're all kind of putting our heads together, we're all having conversations within this community, I think it'd be helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, because that kind of stuff is the things that we worry about, really. I mean, I feel like are the long-term implications of that lack of motivation or apathy, right? Yeah. Like, what is going to happen when the students are not students anymore? Like, what is the next generation of our workers and people?
Yeah, for sure. And again, that's another one that we could dive into a ton. But no, it's something to think about and to reflect on. And I think that's why a lot of us worry about these things. So I think it's good to put it out there and to have those conversations. But we can leave it there for the day. Thanks to Janet for coming on. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we hope you enjoyed hearing from the community. And if you are not there yet, we would love for you to join us. It is, like I said, an amazing online space. It's filled with positivity and professionalism, great conversation, great ideas. I love the discussions that are happening. I love the connection. So if you have some time, please come check it out. We will link to the community in the show notes, or you can find it at community.theartofeducation.edu. I hope we see you there. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education University with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Please be sure to subscribe so we can join you again. And if you love the show, please jump over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. Give us a 5-star rating, maybe even leave us a review. We are also taking questions now for the January mailbag. If you have any questions about what to do after break, how to start a new semester, how to reset your classes after break, or anything else that you want advice on, we would love to hear them. Email Timothy Bogatz at theartofeducation.edu or podcasts at theartofeducation.edu with any questions you may have. We are looking forward to reading them.